welcome back to Men Pursuing More podcast. I'm your host, Roger Maupin, and today I'm excited to welcome Daron Franklin, also known as Coach Frank, to the show. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Roger? Great. Glad to be here, man. Excited to be here.
I am so excited about having you on and just hearing your story. So let me just give a little intro of Daron. He's a founder of F42 Empowerment and the creator of Beyond the Edge framework. He works with workforce organizations, businesses, education systems to help young men age 17 to 29 build confidence, consistency, and long-term success. His work focuses on helping men move past fear, stop retreating, and learn how to elevate on and off the field of life. Coach Frank blends coaching, leadership development, and proven frameworks like doubter, believer, lifer, or participator, contributor, or lifer. I love that. Can't wait to hear about that. And is increasing life capacity, keto to help men win the moments that matter most. Whether life is, it's 4th and 1 or it's 1st and 10. He helps men design winning plays and go beyond the edge. So Coach Frank, it is an honor to have you on the podcast, and we're going to jump right into it. We're to some sports questions before we get into your story.
Cool.
So here we go. Your favorite all-time sports moment. I know you're involved in sports, high school, college, and after college. I know there's probably many moments, but what was maybe your all-time sports moment?
I'll tell you this, man. Just thinking about that, I'll just go with a personal one if I can, man, to give a shout out to New Orleans Recreation Department, the city where I'm from, playing for Milne Playground and winning the youth football city championship in 1989 under Coach Harry. And my dad was the assistant coach. And I just remember that season making so many friends. And then we won the city championship across the river in Algiers versus Harrell Playground, man. So at 9 years old, winning my first ever team championship in football at Milne Playground.
I love that. Going back to where you grew up, your kind of foundation, and your dad being the assistant coach.
Yep. Yeah, man. So that was big, man. And my cousin and his dad was there on the team. And my dad used to have these Gatorade bottles, the 64-ounce Gatorade bottles. He used to squeeze the top. He used to put a hole in the top of the orange container, and that was our water bottles on the side.
Hey, whatever it takes to get some hydration.
Yeah, man. So we always laugh about that, but great moment.
Yeah, great memories. How about your favorite team, college or pro? Because I know you played college football. You played some arena football. Just share with us maybe a favorite team you follow or maybe a team you're on.
I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to go back again to the early 90s. The Fab Five was probably my favorite college team, man. I love basketball just as much as I did football, man. But, man, I cried when Chris Webber called that timeout in the Superdome, man. I was watching that game a few miles away and just not understanding the whole dynamic of it. But, man, those guys playing those 3-4 years together, that was my favorite college team at that moment.
Oh, I remember that Fab Five. They were amazing to watch.
Yeah.
Yes. The shout out to the Fab Five. Maybe one of them be listening in the next few weeks or next month to hear your podcast.
Yeah.
Love it. How about one coach or mentor who had the biggest impact in your life? I know you've been involved in coaching. You played at a higher level. You played in college and then arena football.
Man, this guy, man, who I'll speak upon, he's more like my big brother, and we're relatives, man. But at the same time, he's impacted so many other people in the city of New Orleans and also at different universities where he's coaching. And now he's a running backs coach at University of Arkansas. And I'm talking about Coach Dave Yak Johnson, man. He's a big brother to me at those early ages. And I talked about playing at Milne Playground. But, man, he just always was that big brother to me. I didn't have any big brothers. I had all sisters, right? And he just taught me a lot about the game of football and how I can use it. And we even coached together a couple of times in the city of New Orleans. And he's been more than a mentor. He's really been, like I said, man, a big brother to me. Obviously, we're related, but just someone who we both have been able to go along that journey, coaching in football and playing it throughout our years together.
And all the sisters you had, the sisters looking out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, man, my three sisters, man, they always show love to me, man, all of them, man. I'll make sure that they get a chance to listen to this. First of all three of them.
And he's at, where is it? You said the University of Arkansas?
He's a Razorback now, man. He Florida State for a few years. He's been all over, man. But yeah, he's now currently at the University of Arkansas as a running backs coach.
All right. Shout out to the Razorbacks. Love it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Darren, let's get into your story. I know you grew up in New Orleans. Some people say it differently, New Orleans or New Orleans, or
Yeah.
I guess from a city rich in culture, resilience, and adversity. Take us back to like your upbringing, your kind of family environment, and lessons that kind of helped shape you early on.
Well, a few things come to mind, Roger, and I've already mentioned two of those moments, man. Obviously, winning the championship at Munich Playground and playing with cousins, lifelong friends, and then obviously with Dave. But man, I really was raised with a village, man, of people. And what I really mean by that, Roger, and it's hard for people to understand, but I paint this picture. For number one, man, it was nothing for us to get together at family and friends' house multiple times throughout the week without having to plan something, fellowship, eating. It was just a normal thing, man, every day. I saw my grandparents, both sets of my grandparents, pretty much every other day. My mom and my dad, even though they split up and divorced when I was an early teenager, still had my two sisters with me and my other sister. It was like, man, we didn't miss a beat because of the family and the village of people that poured into us. And it's still like that. Obviously, man, we'll talk about something a little later. Hurricane Katrina dispersed us all. But growing up, just being able to be around my grandparents, my great grandparents also in Uptown New Orleans off Delachey Street, and then my grandparents in the 8th Ward and the 7th Ward, man. And being around both of my grandfathers really influenced me in a few ways of how to be partners, life partners with my grandmothers, and also, man, just how to obtain some wisdom. And then another moment that some of your listeners will relate to as they may be from that area in New Orleans or outside of it. But at 15 years old, I got my first job with the city of New Orleans mayor. Morial was the mayor. And I worked at Tambourine and Fan. And that's in the 6th Ward historic Treme area. You may have seen that show on HBO some while back, Treme. But man, that was a guy, the leader of the organization, Jerome Big Duck Smith. And at the age of 15, man, I learned so much from a leadership standpoint, from a civil rights, African American history standpoint. And then also, man, he took us and taught us how to fight for the things that we needed, as far as making sure that the community had a certain pool and making sure that the kids had community space equivalent to crosstown places. So I would say at age 15 is where I really gained the momentum for being a leader. And that came with a moment of working the summer camp for Tambourine and Fan at the Treme Center in the Treme neighborhood in New Orleans.
You think of all the people that have sowed into you, who you are today. You're talking about your great grandparents, your grandparents, and other leaders in the community that have sowed into you. It's like you talked about. It just doesn't take one, but the many that can come and you can surround yourself with and that can sow into you. How impactful that can be for like a 15-year-old or just growing up at that age where some kids just don't have that opportunity. They just don't, there's not that, like getting together with family, like you don't have to, we have to plan it out. It has to be all structured and all that. Hey, just come over and hang out. Let's just spend time together.
And I tell you, man, I miss that. Ever since August 29th, 2005, man, that's something that I really miss. And that's something that Dave and I talk about a lot too, man. We just miss that part of our families being together. And now our families, obviously, man, we've had some opportunities outside of New Orleans and life goes on. But that's something that I had to learn as a parent, man. I wanted my kids to experience some of those things. And I had to learn, man, to just let go. And hey, you use what was impacted, like you just talked about, what was infused in me, and you infusing it to your kids. But at the same time, they can't duplicate those life experiences because they wasn't raised in the same place. However, it is something that I miss dearly.
Yeah, you think like sometimes the next generation, they miss out on that. The communities are not made up that way. People are just not getting together and just watching out for each other. And they're keeping their doors unlocked and people are just kind of like, hey, let's just go hang out at Franklin's house for the night. It's just, there's so much structure to everything, to sports, to everything we do. And we're just busy with so many things. It's, man, let's just slow down a little bit and just have time for each other.
Yeah, man. And it's something that I saw a guy had he's a rap pioneer in the New Orleans area, man, Mr. Mina from Partisan Crown, a rap group. And he mentioned something the other day on Instagram just about playing outside. And a guy, he was giving a story where, and you can relate to this as a basketball coach, guy pretty much had his basketball, went out to the playground, to the park to play. He didn't get picked on with the first group that was running, but they was playing with his ball. he just automatically, it's an unwritten rule. Hey, I'm playing next, even though y'all got my ball. You know what I'm saying? Again, man, I remember just playing around all the different parks in the city of New Orleans and going different places, and the social skills that you learn by doing those kind of things, playing in the street, playing football in the street, developing your own rules, playing at the park. And you talked about that. It's not as structured, but you just learn how to navigate when you're a new person there, learn how to navigate conflict. You learn how to navigate respect issues, unwritten and written. And some of those things, man, I really use as a basis in my framework that we'll talk about later on. But yeah, you're right, man. Just being able to play outside is so much social development that unfortunately a lot of kids don't get now.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in regards to your F42 empowerment. So I appreciate you sharing that, and we're going to hear more about that later on in the podcast. Let's talk about you. You earned both a athletic and academic scholarship and went on to play college football. So tell us about that experience, how you earned that, like what you did in like high school. Because it's hard as an athlete. It's like, man, I know I need to focus on my academics, but man, I'm focused on my athletics because that's my plan when I go to college. It's not academics first. It's athletics first and academics come secondary. So share with us about kind of balancing that excellence in the classroom, on the field, and how it's taught you discipline and preparation for life.
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. And again, it started at 9 years old. Quick story. So I grew up in the Gentilly Woods neighborhood of downtown New Orleans, right? So Pontchartrain Park is in the back of the neighborhood, and that's a historically Black golf course attached to the park, right? Southern University of New Orleans is there, the lakefront is there. But I used to go to Mildy Playground, so I have to drive past that park every day, and that's where all my neighborhood friends played at. But my dad wanted me to play at another park. All right. So when I would pass my friends and they had to go to school and say, man, I saw y'all at practice and I played against them, this and that was always something. But it started there. All right. And then I went to high school at McDonough 35 High School on 1331 Kellerick Street. That school, man, it's prominently known in New Orleans as a school of excellence. And the school was easy for me, honestly. It was just easy for me. But you got to understand, man, my mom was a lifelong educator. Right. Both of my grandparents worked in school system, so I had the leg. Right. But school was easy for me. Wound up playing basketball and football. And again, I thought I was going to grow and be this basketball player, man. I love Sean Kemp. Anytime I had the opportunity to dunk, I was going to dunk. It didn't matter who you was, you going in that ring with me. And I just knew I was going to grow beyond 6 foot. But I didn't develop my handles to go along with my size. And you're a basketball coach, so you understand it, right? Man, one day I missed football practice in the summer, and I was at the St. Menard Center in the St. Menard Project playing basketball. And my football coaches from high school, they knew my mom and my grandparents. So they said, hey, Daron has been missing practice, and we heard he been playing basketball. Let him come to football practice. I was a 3-year starter at free safety in high school. Man, that was my basketball dream cut short, but glad I did. Because I wound up being an all-district performer at McDonough 35, man. I'll tell you this, probably would have went all state had I caught those other 5 intercepts. So I caught 5 and I dropped 5 my senior year.
You're 5 for 10.
Hey, man, unfortunately, in New Orleans with all the talent, there was a guy that caught 10. He made all Metro and all state. I'll just leave it at that. But going to Langston University, Roger look, man, it was a blessing for me because I was a McCabe scholar, number one. I had to keep a 3.5 GPA to keep my academics. But then also I was on athletic scholarship. So if you put those things together, you do the math, that much tuition for a smaller school like that, I was getting money back, basically, is what I'm trying to say, without having to take on any loan.
No NIL money.
No. My NIL money was just a little small package. Let's just say that, right? But, man, I walked on campus. And I knew immediately I could play right away, right? Because I could always run and jump. And I had good high school coaches who taught me how to check out of coverages, communicate, all those things. But physically, I wasn't ready. Man, I came out of high school about 155 pounds. Really didn't get into weights until college. But Terry Kennard was my college coach. And he's an all-pro from the Giants. He was a guy that was all-American, all Clemson this, all Clemson that, was on the championship team at Clemson. And man, he taught me a lot at free safety. And basically, here's what he taught me. I wound up having to start my freshman year, the second half of the season. And the first game I started, I had 10 tackles, 2 pass breakups. And he told me this. He said, listen, I'm going to push you because you really have a chance. And I was like, what you talking about, coach? Look, I played professional ball. He's like, I'm not telling you that you guaranteed to go to the NFL, but with your instincts and with your length and the way you can run, you have a chance. He said, but you have to get in the weight room. And from there, at 5:50, he used to have me up. Frank, meet me in the weight room. And this the Monday after our last game. I was like, coach, we ain't taking a break? He was like, no, take a break for what? So, man, those types of things molded me. And still to this day, man, I go to the weight room 5, 6 in the morning. Now, I ain't lifting to compete. My lady, she wants me to get back to that 180, 85 pounds. I'm like, nah, I'm 45. I ain't trying to do it. I just want to make sure I can move. But again, man, those experiences at Langston, it's just being exposed to so many other people, man. Look, Roger, I didn't know that everybody didn't eat red beans and rice on Monday. We did that in New Orleans. I thought everybody did that. And until I went to Langston University, I was like, man, what are red beans and rice? They was like, what? And why do they have this white stuff on these biscuits? I never heard of biscuits and gravy, man. So again, all those things helped me to become the person who I am and helped me in college. And unfortunately, I'll finish with this. I did break my hand 4 games into my senior season. And I was out for the rest of the year playing against Texas Southern and a good friend of mine who's the wide receiver coach at Ohio State, Cortez Hankton. But broke my hand and I was out. But because of my instincts and my smarts and my intelligence and my cerebralness, that's how I got into coaching. They said, look, Frank, we know you can't play no more, but you're going to come up in the box and help us out. So when I got up in the box, I started seeing football. I already saw it because of the free safety in the cerebral weight. But now when I'm in the box, I'm like, oh, coach, this about to happen, this about to happen. And they're relaying it down and it happens. And I was like, oh, I got something. So ever since then, man, that's when I got into coaching. And I've always been very comfortable being up top in the box when I was coaching because it started my senior year in 2001, man.
Tell us the journey from, I know you went from college, and how did you get into arena football? Because I know you went, and tell us about where OKC plays, basketball is like, and just tell us about how you met. What was the journey to the arena football? And then we'll get into you being eventually like a teacher and coach.
So look, arena football wise, man, again, got together with Coach Jack, Coach Dave. He was coaching at Old Perry Walker High School in Algiers. And he was like, listen, man, you got to keep your body active. So when I finished school, you never know what could happen. You got to keep your body active. You got to keep playing somehow, some way. So honestly, Roger, there was a team, we played semi-pro together in New Orleans Hurricanes, he and I. And then there was an arena team called the Homer Bayou Bucks. I found out they had a tryout. And this is going to come full circle. Me and one of my teammates, I used to pick him up from Metairie, Jefferson area, and we would drive to Homer every day to try out for the team. Now, Rod, you understand something. I'm from New Orleans. I know that this could be a way out. So when I go to trials, I'm skipping everybody. When it's time for one-on-ones and all that, I'm getting multiple reps. You know how you go for a rep, and you see these camps, and then you got to wait behind the other 50 people? Nah, I go for a rep, I come right back, go for another rep. Because I know at the end of the day, if the coaches keep seeing me, they're going to better evaluate it. And the guys in the line was like, say, bro, you skipping? I'm lining up. Y'all ifing and waiting on somebody. I'm lining up, doing my thing. So I made the team. And when I made the team, man, I just excelled. And the coach was Coach Jack Phillips. He had played a lot of arena football. He said, listen, man, you have the man-to-man skills to play arena football, not indoor football. It was a little different or little rules. So think of indoor football more like Canadian rules. Multiple people can go in motion.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Where in indoor football, in arena football, only one person could go in motion. And that's the offensive specialist against the defensive specialist. If you remember seeing those, you'll see that one guy just screaming down the field before the ball snaps. I was that defensive guy. He's like, listen, man, you have the man-to-man skills to play in the arena league. I said, you think so, coach? He's like, yeah. After coaching, I tried out for the Oklahoma City Yard Dogs. because I had already went to school at Langston in Oklahoma. So I had somewhere to stay. I still knew people there. And the Oklahoma City Yard Dogs, they actually played in the Ford Center back then, which is now the current place where the Oklahoma City Thunder play. And we opened up that arena, man. But arena football was exciting. It's almost like playing out in the street because you got that amount of space. And it just happened so fast. It just happened so fast. And man, honestly, Roger, I was just trying to continue to chase the dream. I had a chance to really work out with the New Orleans Voodoo multiple times, and I thought I was going to get signed there, but they wound up signing the guy from their parent company from the New Orleans Saints. But after that, man, I started having some bills come up, and my dad and I were staying together. I just went ahead and shut it down. I was proud of my achievements, and hey, man, I had a chance to play professional ball for 2 years.
So let the listeners know about arena football. I think there's a number of listeners that know about arena football, probably have watched it, maybe know someone, maybe has played in it, but for sure watched it on TV, maybe have gone to some arena football games. What are some, if you're watching it or someone talks about arena football, what are a couple like rules or something that takes place in the game that maybe some may not know, maybe a little confused about the game?
Well, first of all, it's half the field, right? So it's a 50-yard field, probably about 25, 30 yards wide, if that. And obviously it's all played indoors. I played in the Delta Center in Utah, the old Delta Center. Just think of places like that. Playing in small arenas, like I said, the Oklahoma City. So you have 16, 18,000 seating capacities. And then you always have one guy that can go in motion. And what I mean by that, vertical motion, he can run back as far as he wants to, and then he can run towards the line of scrimmage before the ball snaps to get himself a head start. And it's a fast-paced, electrifying game. So it's big-time scoring, 50, 60 points by either team. And I think the guys that have it the hardest, Roger, are the kickers and the DS. Like my job that I had and the kickers, because the field goal posts are so narrow, and then most times they're not even really field goal posts, man. They're just up on the net. And they're way much more narrow than the regulation uprights. You know, the ball is smaller.
Oh, really? The ball is smaller. Okay.
The ball is a little bit smaller because it's all about points, man. So again, any of your listeners, man, who've ever played football out in the streets, and it's about 5 or 6 guys playing in between the cars, think about that on a big wide street. And we used to call it in New Orleans, second grass is out. And the second grass is out is really the grass that's the lawn of the people, of the neighbors. Not the first grass between the street and the sidewalk. That's first grass. Called second grass.
The second grass.
Yeah, so it made it a little wider, if you understand what I'm saying by that. Arena football, man, fast paced. And one thing about it, that wall's not going to move. That's the only out of bounds. But there's nowhere for you to go. You're going to take some hits. You're going to run into that wall, man. It's fast paced. It's almost playing the game when you go to the arcade pinball.
Oh,
yeah.
All right. There it is. Arena football at its finest.
Yep.
All right, let's move forward now and share with the listeners your path shifted in education and about teaching algebra and becoming a head football coach in both the New Orleans and Dallas area. So how did coaching young men, and then also in the classroom, but also on the field, shape your kind of philosophy on leadership?
Man, those are some pivotal moments for me, Roger. Man, pretty much a majority of my adult life so far for someone who's been developing people for over 20 years. Again, I was chasing that dream and just making sure I stayed in shape for arena football. And I started coaching, as I mentioned, at O.P. Walker High School in Algiers in the West Bank of New Orleans. And I was addicted. You're a former coach, man. If you can show a kid a fundamental or a tool that they can use to be successful, and they use it, and then they come back and ask you for more, as a coach, man, that's it. It's hard to show up every day when you got kids that are coming to you like, Coach, can you show me this? How do I do this? And that's what happened. And after that, the next year, I was like, hey, how can I do this full time? So I started teaching for all these parish school board. And from there, man, I got into math. I was always good in math. So I got my certification and things like that and taught Algebra 1. And one thing I found out, Roger, was this, man. Majority of my students, when they met me, they would say things like this, including their parents when I met them on parent. I don't understand math. Math is hard. I can't get I've even had kids tell me, man, look, coach, I've never passed a state test before, state math test. And in Texas, man, you start taking that thing in third, fifth grade, eighth grade, and in ninth grade, if you don't pass it, that's a requirement for graduation. So as I gathered my master's at Xavier University in New Orleans, I came across some data in one of my classes that showed nationwide, when students did not pass algebra or English 1, they were high risk of dropping out of high school. I want you to think about that as a high school coach, right? If they struggled in those two areas in ninth grade and didn't have success, didn't pass them, most times they found later on that they wouldn't finish. So in my mind, Roger, I was like, man, when I found that out, I was like, man, I got to make sure that I'm using my power and influence to give these kids a chance to have a high school career because I'm getting them in the ninth grade. What did I have to do? I knew I had to make sure that I had to provide them with confidence and I had to make things relevant. Because when they start seeing them X's and Y's, it's like, coach, I don't know what that means. Man, I even did things like I used to make posters, put them up around my room. I called them visual aids. Man, I used to let my kids work together in groups 4. I would even let my kids in a group of 4 take their test together. I said, look, y'all got 20 minutes to work together. And if you would have seen the eyeballs that almost came out of the sockets when I gave them that, they were like, coach, isn't that cheating? I said, no, it's not cheating. I'm preparing you for the world. I said, unfortunately, sometimes we have this system in place where we only want you to do things on your own, but when you go for the rest of your life, you always gonna be working with somebody else. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. So I would give them 20 minutes to work together. Why was I doing that? I'm intentionally teaching them how to network, how to work together. Now, after 20 minutes, for the remaining 30 minutes, hey, you're on your own. But what did I give that kid a chance who's in the back? I just gave them a chance to have some success, and they didn't get it from me. They got it from their peer, who they gonna understand more anyway. Man, I was very intentional about things like that, Roger. I knew I had something when kids started coming up to me like, coach, I passed it. Now look, they ain't passed with the top score. The goal was to make sure they passed. And when they passed, again, man, that's that self-confidence, because majority of their schooling, they hadn't passed. And I'm telling you, man, it was causing some issues with some kids because, man, they start to feel like they're a failure. But because they were able to get a certain amount of questions right in the math class, man, they felt like they could win. And that's how I really started to develop, which I didn't know was going to come to this, but that's what it's about, man, just developing that self-confidence. And it's the same thing when I was coaching. I just built rapport with kids, always came with great energy. Very rarely, man, would I have to raise my voice in a demeaning way to kids. I'm passionate about coaching, but it's no need for me to be demeaning to you because I'm breaking you down. I need you to be your best. Now I'm not saying I don't have certain standards, but I'll just tell you this, man. If a kid pouted and he was in game and I couldn't get him out, I'm going to encourage him. Like, man, you just got to get past it. Let's go to the next play. That was our mentality. Now we came off, hey, we're going to fix some things. Talk to me about what you're seeing with your eyes and this and that. But nevertheless, man, it was just always about building that confidence. And once kids learn to trust me, it was sky the limit. And I learned that early on as a young coach, finding out what's going on in their life, building a rapport with them. And I use that in my framework now with my one-on-one coaching, just building that rapport, Roger. Because once I found out what those young men and even those young ladies in my classrooms, once I found out what they were dealing with on a daily basis, right? And once I found out what they wanted to do in life and how they felt about school, I knew how to approach it.
You think your F42 empowerment, where you're empowering these, you think of, I always use the word uplift and empower, but you provide them the resources, you're building that relationship. By building that relationship, they're going to eventually, when they start having success, you're going to earn that respect, because respect has to be earned. Even as a teacher, you can't just get up in front of the class and it's about building those relationships with your students, and that each and every student has a story. and their story needs to be heard, and they want to be acknowledged. And that's part of being kind of respected, but also in return. So it's got to be that mutual respect. It can't be, hey, you need to respect me because I'm a teacher, or I need to respect you because you're so-and-so, you're an athlete, or you're successful in this or that in school. It's got to be a mutual thing. And now you have all these students together are really empowering each other.
So Roger, was like this, man. And when you talk about that, I think about this, and I learned this later on in my teaching career. Did I want to control kids, or did I want to develop them? Because unfortunately, man, in our system of education, I think, in my opinion, a lot of it is control. Whereas, can you take a kid, as I described, from where they are and get them to give them a chance to be able to compete in this world? But with that, find out where they want to compete at. Let's not force them to go to an area where they really don't have any interest in. How do you find that out? Just like you said, man, you can build that rapport with them and give them some of the things that can help them, and then be honest with them. Raj, man, when I used to make errors on test off, I made an error on the front of the board. Hey, coach, hey, everybody, look, Coach Frank messed up. There go that trust and that respect. Because now they look at you as a superhero, but then they're like, oh, you're human.
That's right.
Man, once I figured all those things out, it was like, oh, man, this is easy.
Yeah, I think sometimes as just not just teachers, but I think as adults, we make things so complicated for ourselves, but we make it so confusing and complicated for kids. I think life's pretty simplistic, pretty simple, but I think we make it that much more complex. We make it that much more difficult.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes we do. We can't get out our own way. That's a coaching term, right?
I like that. Just get out of our own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And share with the audience about your experience, Hurricane Katrina, and just the impact that had on the community. And then you were forced to transition to Dallas, Texas, and then eventually, eventually transition back. So just share with us about that.
I'll tell you what, man, that's one of the moments that I'll never forget as a pivotal moment in my life. My dad and I were living in the house that I was raised in, and I mentioned earlier, Gentilly Woods on Metropolitan Drive. And that Friday, he was like, hey, look, I'm going to leave, which was Saturday. You need to leave too. And I was like, that last year, man, I packed up everything. It took me 10 hours just to get to Jackson, Mississippi. And I was on my way to St. Louis. And I'm like, Dad, man, I really don't feel like fighting all that traffic. Because some people don't know, and without going too much into the story, some people really couldn't leave. And then there's only one way in and one way out of New Orleans, and that's I-10. I'm like, man, we don't need to go nowhere. He was like, no, look, we leaving. My dad was a cowboy, man. And I remember him waking me up at 4 a.m. on Saturday. He was like, listen, I'm going to get the horses. I'm going to Baton Rouge. Where you going? I was like, Dad, I'm going to go to Dallas. My mom and them was already living out there, and my sister. Roger, I took a little gym duffel bag, man. If you ever have gone to the gym on the weekend to go shoot hoops, man, you got your little small bag. You got your basketball shoes, your towel, and another shirt in it. So I had a lime green Nike little gym bag. Because I knew I was going to be able to hoop when I got to my sister and them, because they had rec centers and stuff, man. This was something that was all new to me, right? I'm talking about the rec centers with multiple goals and guys running. So I'm like, I know one thing, I'm going to go hoop. And I brought me a suit because I was going to go to church that Sunday with them too. Roger, that's the only thing I brought out of my house. That's it. That's all I brought. When I came back 2-3 months later, everything else was devastated. So at the age of 25, and again, man, there are multiple stories of people losing lives and things of that nature. I'm not taking away from that. But to have your life change and you couldn't prepare for it, it could do something to you. Because as I mentioned earlier, New Orleans is a small place, man. Everybody knows everybody. And when you break up that dynamic in the way that it was broken up, it just has a lasting impact on it. I don't care what anybody says, you should get over this and that. If you've never been through something like that, it's hard for you to reconcile with it. But nevertheless, man, it did expose me to a new setting in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I get to have a chance to be close to the family, started a family myself at that time. And obviously it was some blessings, a lot of blessings, man, that came along with it. But to have a knee-jerking pivot in your life and not have a chance to really, you can prepare for it, but to prepare for the aftermath, that when you go back to something 3 months later, it doesn't look the same. And you never live there again in those particular homes and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? I'll tell you this, man, just going through that again taught me about resilience, and also taught me just, hey man, materialistic things are not as valuable as your own life. And you can get things back. In the way the universe works, it'll show up for you as long as you don't give in.
But that had to be gut wrenching. They go back there, like you said, 2 or 3 months later, and some of the things maybe you had from childhood,
Yeah.
and it's gone. Everything's just
Yeah,
that's
man.
gotta be so hard.
Pictures. I think I kept. My mom had some video reels of me in college playing ball. Somehow she had that already out there. But a lot of my high school games, my uncle used to record them for me on the VHS, put them in the VCR, stuff like that. My son never got to see that. There was no YouTube back in 1990s, in the late 90s. When my son meet people who either saw me play or played with me, it's different, because he knows that I'm a good coach. That's what he saw me as. But he never saw me any footage of me actually playing. And those are some things, man, that obviously you miss, just not being able to share those memories like you talk about with your kids.
I remember hearing someone share, but the more experiences you had, good and bad, and some that you're willing to like really be willing to be uncomfortable and be vulnerable, and you're going to just be relatable to more people. And I just think of your experiences, the good and bad experiences of just people that didn't grow up in New Orleans or hearing your story about it. I never knew, I never grew up there in it, but you becoming more relatable to other people that might have grown up in a different type of city, but they can relate to some of your stories, or like just your importance of family, but also importance of like you playing the Arena Football League, and then your journey back to New Orleans as a head coach and in the school system, and then Hurricane Katrina, just right there. We could stop the podcast right there and just like how relatable it is to so many people, because you're covering so many different facets of your, that can be, if someone doesn't relate regarding to you growing up in New Orleans, somebody might have went through something tragic, and we'll get to that, what came next too. And then having to move, forced to move. You didn't really have an opportunity to say, no, I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
And then playing at the high level, not only at college level, there's guys that play at college level, some at professional, but go on and play at the professional level in arena football. So I appreciate so far that you shared, and hey, we're not finished.
Yeah.
Listeners, now we're moving on to, I know at age, I believe it's at age 28, a little, we call it a life disruption, but pretty major. You had cancer. You're diagnosed with cancer at age 28. Tell us about that, how life, the moment that stops life in its tracks. It's wow, nobody wants to hear that, or hear a family friend or a parent that has cancer. And then how did that season change your perspective on purpose, your urgency, your faith going forward?
Yeah, man. And this is for your listeners, all those men who are pursuing more, and even the ladies who listen to the podcast. Look, man, at age 28, at the time I was married, and my ex-wife, she was in the medical field. She was like, hey, you need to get a physical every year. I'm like, I'm not playing any more ball. Why don't you need to get a physical? Right? But she was like, nah, you need to get a physical every year. So why am I saying that for your listeners? Men, listen, man, whatever opinions you have about the medical field, you can have them, but there's nothing wrong with at least going in for a checkup once a year. Because at least you'll be able to have a diagnostics of what's going on, a baseline. So I'm glad I did. I found out that I had abnormal testicular, and you go in for the next screening, and they say, hey, man, look, there's a mass there. There's something. So long story short, wound up having surgery, man, and even went through 8 sessions of radiation. And in the summer of 2008, that taught me something, because I'm at that oncology place in Fort Worth, and I'm there with other guys who have prostate cancer. And I'm sitting there with them, and I'm looking at these guys, and they're older than me. And I'm like, man, you talk about a faith and awakening moment, And the reason why I still go to the gym and stay active now is because that environment and that situation taught me, hey, if you have the knowledge and you seek the knowledge, do those things to keep yourself healthy, to give yourself a chance to compete. And it was a tough time, man, because my daughter was being born a couple months later. I'm going through the radiation. The radiation had an abnormal effect on my body. So I was back in the hospital the summer of '08, and they didn't know what was wrong with me. Man, I had lost about 10 pounds. I was in the hospital for 7 days, and I couldn't hold any food down. And this is about a month or so after the radiation and stuff, and a few months after having the surgery to remove the cancer. It just taught me to, number one, take care of myself. Number two, the will to keep living. And at 28, man, you still feel invincible. But now reflecting on it, and again, man, this is something else for your listeners. I know the athlete in me has helped me out tremendously from a health situation, but at the same time, I'm not complacent. But then also that will and desire that we develop as athletes, especially if you take it serious and you try to get to higher levels. When you have that will and desire, man, it helps you when you face obstacles like that, because not to just give up. And for that young man or that middle-aged male out there who is listening, man, that may be pursuing more and you may be going through some challenging life experience, you have enough will inside of you not to give up. And that's what I did. Obviously, man, I had some family around me and supportive people. And that's something else that I would share with people, man, with the listeners. Hey, when you're going through something, man, find some people that can pour into your positivity. And that's what helped me, Roger, to get through that situation.
So what was that process for you from the time you diagnosed until they finally said, hey, you're clear? Was that a 6 month or was it, how long a period of time
So
was it?
January is when I took the physical, and I had the radiation, I think maybe in June. I had the surgery in March. I remember it was a March Madness because I was teaching at the time. So we had spring break in Texas. So I scheduled the surgery around March. And then in the summertime is when they had me to do the radiation oncology. So I would say it was like a six to 8 month process. But at the same time, periodically, I would have to go to the urologist to get my blood drawn and make sure the closer I was. Then now I just took a physical in November. Again, I hadn't taken one in a couple of years. So that's why I'm talking to that middle-aged male. I went took my physical. All my blood work came back outstanding, but I also need to go to the urologist and just make sure, man, that, hey, if they have all the science and medicine, I'll just say this, they have the science and the tools to help us what's going on in our bodies, cool. Now, as far as taking all the different medicines and things like that, I don't do that myself. That's a different conversation, but at least you can get the test, man, and use the tools and the research to at least, again, give yourself a chance to compete, to pursue more, and go beyond the edge.
And man, since then you've been pursuing more. I know you've had some challenges like we always do. That's life, ups and downs in life. But I know as you move forward, you were married for 16 years. And then I know eventually you went through a divorce and kind of, for you, I know probably a major life setback. I know I was married one other time. We were married for about 5 years, and it's a tough thing, no matter what anybody says, even though, hey, they're willing to part. Hey, it's hard on anybody, no matter what anybody says. Hard on kids, hard on a family. And then my current wife, now we've been married for 23 years. So
winning. That's what I call winning right there, Rod.
It's winning. That's right. Let's continue that going. 23 years and another 23 years.
Yep.
All right. So how did you navigate that loss personally, and just review about who you're becoming going forward?
Man, listen, I'll tell you this, Roger. I've lost my dad, man. I've lost family members, right? And the divorce and Hurricane Katrina were two of the most hurtful things in my 45 years of life. Hands down. Because you couldn't prepare for it. And it tested you because you love something so deeply, right? And then when it's snatched away from you, obviously the growing up in New Orleans and then a relationship in a home, and I'm talking about a home meaning a family that you thought was going to go on forever, right? Again, man, for that listener, as you described, you went through it for a short amount of relationship time, but then myself going through it with kind of longer time, it was challenging, Roger. And I'll say now, man, I'm really in a space where you move past. I'm excited, man. I'm in a new relationship, in fact, with someone who I dated at 10 years old back in New Orleans. Man. Maybe for a rebound episode, I can come back and talk about that. But my lady, man, she's the one that really helped me with getting that 42 empowerment off the ground. But the divorce thing, man, if you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do as a man, and then you have that taken away from me, I felt like I went through a stage where I felt like I was a failure. And Roger, I really had not failed at anything in life before. And my therapist had to tell me, again, for the listeners, men, yeah, I go to therapy too, man. Obviously, you and I having this conversation, this is considered some therapy and good conversation for women. You know, what I do is I'm not a licensed clinical person, but having that conversation with some one-on-one things is great. But my therapist at the time, she's like, nah, you're not a failure. She's like, you did the best that you could do, what you knew how to do. It is unfortunate that someone didn't want you. They want to continue going on. So don't look at it as a failure. But I struggled with that, man, honestly, because I put everything into what I was doing. And how did I get past it? Thank God for my mom continuing to be a parent to an older child, right? To older dependent. Thank God for that village of people who I talked about, who helped me in my upbringing, and my sisters at our early ages in New Orleans. And again, being an athlete, man, determined athlete, right? It helped me. So once I got in that fire, and then working with God and getting a closer relationship to God and the universe, man, just having the will inside of me, Roger, to know that I was going to be able to get to this point and beyond. Right? I couldn't see it. You know what I'm saying? But it's two things that I talk about in F42 empowerment, man. It's like I had to go beyond the edge. It was something new. It was like, all right, what you going to do? You going to retreat and go do something that's not in your character as far as exploit other women or go pick up bad habits? That ain't me, man. But I know some guys are listening to this, and that might be what they result to, right? Or what you gonna do? You gonna stand still and beg somebody to take you back and not move on with your life? Nah, I ain't doing that either. Or are you gonna use this as a situation of not what happened to me, but what happened for me? And I'll just spin it like this, Rob. If I don't get divorced, I don't probably start at 42 empowerment. I'll probably still be teaching and coaching in the classroom, man.
Because sometimes God has a reason, like, for this journey, and for you the experience as well. As I know, going through the divorce, I started to listen to motivational tapes.
Yep.
Or like CDs, Tony Robbins. I seeked out a church. I said, man, I need to get around a community, and and I talk to people too. Like you talked about, you got to have a community of people that are going to pour into you. So I poured in there playing more basketball, getting around more men that would pour. Yep. But you also have to have people that are going to speak truth and speak into you. Yeah. That's key, because it's somebody to just speak negativity into you and speak negative about your ex-wife and all that. But they want someone to really empower you and really help you and uplift you to move forward along your journey. And hey, it's a struggle, I think, with anyone. Yeah. And you have to be able to seek out, if it's like therapy, family, the people that can pour into you. You also have to be that willingness to allow people, because you got to take ownership of it, and that willingness for people to pour into. Because I could easily put my finger at my ex-wife and all that, but I was immature. I was doing immature things. I needed to grow up a little bit, and it just taught me a lot. Just like with you, with the birth of F42 empowerment. Let's hear about that.
Yeah, man. As I mentioned, my lady who I'm currently dating now, man, I was teaching at the last school that I was at, right? And she was like, hey, I always hear you talking about helping other coaches. Have you ever thought about doing this as a professional speaker? And I was like, no, I never. I knew of guys that you mentioned, man, when I was going through that Les Brown, every time I see Johnson, guys like that, right? Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar. You know
Yeah.
about those guys.
Oh, I know about all those names. Yes.
But you think these guys are like way up there, and how do I do that? So I'm gonna tell you this, Roger. At the school I was at in Fort Worth, Texas, the last school I was at, took my lady's advice. She sent me some other people examples, and I reached out to. I used something that my grandfather taught me. He said, "Take what you have to make what you want. Take what you have to make what you want." So I'm at a school with 12 minimum coaching programs. It's the spring. Nobody's really in season except for track. So everybody else is looking for me. So I went to the softball coach and said, "Hey, look, I'm starting this speaking program. Do you think I can come talk to your girls?" I promise you, man, first time. We're in her classroom. It's during the athletic period. She was like, "Yeah, we just finished the season. Can you touch on this and that?" Man, I went in there and I asked the young ladies, I said, "Hey, I know in softball, they make these little cheers, right? While they're in the dugout. I said, y'all give me one of the cheers. What's the best one y'all like?" And they did it. So I was like, all right, that's how I break the ice. I get them comfortable. And then I went into my spiel, man, and Roger, what I felt afterwards was undescribable. Because the young ladies gave me some feedback and the look on their faces, and then for the rest of the school year, them speaking to me and they said, "Hey, coach, you said this and that." I said, "Okay, I got something." Then I spoke to the wrestling team a few weeks later at same school. And that's when it really hit me. One of my friends saw me. I posted the clip on Instagram. And one of my friends from college, he saw me. We got recruited out in New Orleans at the same time, man. My brother, Gerald Campbell, man. And he said, "Man, that's F42 right there." I hadn't had a company name yet. I was like, "Man, what you mean?" He was like, "Man, that's Frank right there." That's what all my friends call me. Obviously, Coach Frank. That's what
Yeah.
he was like, "Man, you elevating the higher heights, man. It's like a plane." And then the 42 was my college jersey. He and I were college teammates. So I was like, "Man, I like that." And at the time, I had a business coach through the SBDC in Fort Worth. Man, we put the logo together and we did all the things that I need to do to turn this into a business. And I started off, Roger, just using my network of coaches in DFW and in New Orleans, speaking to different high school sports teams. And now, man, I've evolved to speaking on stages around the world, but also, again, taking what I have a lot of experiences developing people, mainly males, as a former football coach. And now those males are not teenagers, young men, not teenagers anymore. They're young men. They're going into their careers. They're starting families, right? So now they're reaching out to me like, "Coach, man, I miss you." They don't miss me from the athletic aspect of things, but I've had a few of them tell me this. "Coach, you used to be saying that stuff to us. Oh, that's what you was trying to get us to." It resonates with me now, Coach, when I see you speaking it. So I developed a Beyond the Edge framework for those men who are ages 17 to 29, man, who, are determined to be successful. If you just got an inkling amount of energy in you and you want to go beyond where you are, go beyond that edge, I can provide you with some tools and help you to navigate this world. So that's how I got started. This is where I am now, man, with an 8-part framework. I work with workforce organizations. I work with the business leaders. I even run a little series during lunchtime, man. It's called Lunch and Earn.
That's right.
Right now, man, being an entrepreneur is something new for me, right? There's a big pivot, but at the same time, man, I'm built for it. I'm determined to be successful. I am successful right now. Just continue to impact people along the way.
Hey, if I was between 17 and 29, sign me up. Oh, wait a minute. Can you sign anybody up? Can someone be beyond 29?
So really, Roger, I learned that business, man, right? You can't help not, I'm going to say this. You can't solve everyone's problem, but as I learned as an entrepreneur, you want to specify and have a specific target audience. Right? But at the same time, I'm not going to turn away a middle-aged male or any male that's looking for guidance, because those 17 to 29 guys are those are the guys I specialize with. But as your listeners heard from the beginning of the podcast, I've had some life experiences myself that I can connect with, help some other guys with, and even help me. So I'll tell you this, man, it's not one of those coaching deals. I offer one-on-one coaching, as you were inquiring about. And you'll be surprised, man. I have a framework and a curriculum, but to find out what you want to get better at, right? When you participate in the Beyond the Edge Man program, what is it that you want to get better at? And we go from there. I actually have a young man that I've been working with, second semester student at Texas A&M. He's a mechanical engineering student. And he just wanted to obtain an internship, right? But man, along the way, he's learned how to buy a suit. His dad is incarcerated. He didn't know the difference between professional, business, casual, all those kind of things, right? He's learned how to construct an email, a follow-up email to someone that may be interested in him, right? He's learned how to connect with people through a networking aspect of things. So those are just some of the outcomes that the Beyond the Edge program, coaching program, allows for participants to receive.
Or the value you bring to the marketplace. But for 17 to 29-year-olds that don't know any better, you don't know what you don't know, and they don't know, and they need to be coached up. Just a value in coaching. And I just foresee the value in coaching just exponentially growing, not only across this country, but I think across the world. I think there's just such a need for it. And once I think those that kind of understand really what this is about, what coaching is about, I think you will see just a massive number of people moving toward you and others.
Yeah, man, there's definitely a space for it. Again, especially with that age range. Man, they have so many distractors out there that you and I just didn't have. I'm not going to say life was much more simpler for us, but there were just certain things we just didn't have to deal with. And we probably had access to more people to help us navigate through those times than what they have. And what it's competing against, rather. They have access to people like myself and you, but we're competing against some of the other opposite forces that gain their attention also. So I always share in my Beyond the Edge speech of doubter, believer, and lifer. I say, hey man, you got two little people on your shoulders. You got that person on your left side of your shoulder that's jumping up and down, screaming, telling you stand still, retreat, do this negative thing. Where you've got this soft voice on your right side of your shoulder that sounds probably like someone that's been nurturing you all your life. And it's a soft whisper, but it's the right thing to do. That's why on your right shoulder. And it's an everyday fight, man, for a lot of people on decision making. And sometimes them decisions can alter their life path.
I like that quiet whisper. When it's like your shoulders are like, it's like that. Oh, it's getting a little off balance. And the whispering in your ear, it's like, hey, I believe in you.
Yep.
You're a winner. They talk about words of affirmation, about having others speak into you, but also speaking that into yourself. That's powerful. I know I learned that years ago from others speaking about it, but also just reading books about it. And it's like how powerful that is. And some people have learned it. Some people maybe have learned it, have drawn away from it, and they need to get back to listening to like motivational speakers, listening to positive messages, get off that social media, get off things that are negative, feed yourself with negative in, negative in, negative out. Feed yourself with positive.
It takes courage to do that, Roger, to do that, man. It also, because the courage is, I want to have to better change my mindset. But again, that's where the Beyond the Edge framework comes in. But I'll add on two things. You talked about the speaking it and receiving it. I also like to share with people to write it down and perform the action and create and celebrate the small wins. I promise you, man, since I've been on this journey of entrepreneurship, the things I've been writing down have been happening. But not because I wrote them down or because I said them, right? But because I also put forth some action. And when you put forth the action, you're doing things in a positive, persistent, and patient way. the universe won't deny you. Now, it ain't gonna happen when you want it to happen.
Then that's so
But
true.
I do believe if you're saying it, listening to it, and writing it down and performing the action, if you can get those 4 components going in the direction that you want to go beyond the edge, I truly believe that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish.
I like what you said about the writing, because a lot of people miss that step and they jump right into action instead of look at it, visually see it, you have it written down, and then, they take action. Or some people just miss out. They do all that, the writing, and they never look at it, and there's no action.
Yeah, I have it written with a dry erase marker. Hey, we're coaches, man. I always got a dry erase marker, right? You for the small board on the sideline and me for the big board on the sideline, right? I kept all those dry erase markers, and I've written things that I need to accomplish, man, that I'm going to accomplish on the left side of my bathroom mirror and on the right side of my bathroom mirror. And I started doing that when my son and I moved out 3 summers ago into my apartment in Grand Prairie, Texas. I had learned about it, and it helped me to get through that phase of life. But I wrote down some things, right, that I see every day. Now, how I focus on them depends on the timing and things like that, but I get to see it. So again, it motivates me, but it also holds me accountable to my actions every day, because I'm writing it down and I see it. There's some long-term things, some short-term things, and they change. But again, man, that's Roger, man, from being a coach. You used to be in your office, you had certain things written up on your board, and you made sure you had it written so that you could see it every day, so we could get it accomplished for the team or for whatever we were doing. And you scratched them off and replaced them with some other things as long as you were going. And then you made some adjustments on the sideline. It's the same thing now. And that's what I use, man, to coach those males.
As we kind of wrap this up, share with us about participant, contributor, and life model. I know that was from the beginning we talked about. And how do men get stuck as participants? What shifts them the contributors, and what separates those who become lifers?
It comes back on to what we were just talking about, like coaching on the sideline and our players. Okay. So, Raj, I don't know if you've experienced this before, man, but when I was a head coach, first when I was a freshman coach at St. Augustine High School, our head coach, Dave Yak, told us, hey, man, make sure all the freshmen play. No matter what happens, all the freshmen need to play in the freshman games. I'm a competitive guy. The standard at St. Augustine High School is to win, right? I'm a young coach.
Let the great coach, you're going to win.
I'm a young coach, man, right? So I'm like, okay. In the back of my mind, I know he gave me some instructions, make sure everybody played. But I also know I'm looking at the scoreboard, and we need to win this game. So there were some kids on the sideline who they would give you that look. And if you haven't been a coach, the look in that eye, you just don't get it. And that look, there were 2 looks. There was the look of the kid who, hey, man, I'm ready. And then there was the look of the kid who was like, coach, don't put me in there. The look of the kid who was like, coach, don't put me in there, that's that participator.
Yeah.
All right. That participator within the organization, on a team, as a man, you are complacent and comfortable with where you are. You're just going along for the ride. I'm the guy, the participator is the guy that at lunchtime, he just gonna hang out with the athletes at the table. He's gonna come to practice every day. If we win, it's cool because we're gonna get some more attention at the lunch table around the community. If we don't win, it's all right with me. I ain't gonna lose no sleep behind it. That participator in the business organization is the guy that's been there a while, has a wealth of experience, but he won't share with anybody because nobody asked.
Yeah.
But it's going to be very reliable. But if you don't ask, then I'm not going to step out of my comfort zone to help and be a contributor. Same thing with the male. You may be a participator in your family home. You may see some things that need to get fixed. I'm not just talking about with our hands, but some things that need to come up communication-wise. But you don't say anything because it's like you're just going with the flow. That's the participator. The contributor is that kid that, you know, on the bench, when you look down, they look up. They make that eye contact with you, right? And they're the one that, coach, I'm ready. Put me in the game, coach. Let Booby spin, as old Booby Miles on Friday Night Lights. But that contributor, man, just brings different ideas. I almost look at it like Jamal Crawford type guy, Byron Scott type guy, Lou Williams, that sixth man who could be in the start lineup. That's how much they contribute. But they understand their role on the team, and they're accepted it. But also for those business leaders who are going to listen to this, you got those contributors who want to bring ideas. You got those contributors who are your highest sales performers. However, some of our contributors, they're okay with their role, but we're trying to force them into a different role. Just because you're the best defensive coordinator don't mean you're always going to be the best head coach. And we see that all the time. Just because I'm the best salesperson doesn't mean I'm the best sales manager.
Yes.
I can contribute to the team in my role based on my classification and my development at that time. So that's the contributor. And then the lifer is most times the people that's never coming off the floor, never coming off the field. That's the person who we want with the ball in their hands at crunch time. We know that lifer is that person that, you know, they knew where they were going to be at a certain age in life. And I'll share this story with you to end it and make a clarification for you. It's like the lifer is that kid who is very confident, but very close to being arrogant. It gets on some people's nerves. But they know where they're going. For instance, that lifer is Leo. Leo is a person who he knows that when he finishes high school, he's going to Broadway because he knows he needs to get some acting on stage presence and experience, right? And then after he finishes in those former years, he's going to go to the West Coast and go to Hollywood and get some screen time, right? Because he knows he needs to have that experience. And then Leo's going to come back down south to where he's from and get the musical cultural aspect of things, right? Because his grandfather poured into him at an early age because he didn't have a mom and dad. His grandfather poured into him like, hey, son, you can do whatever you want to do in life, but it just requires you to have some action and some faith. But I also want you to be able to serve people. He learned that from being around those wisdom of that grandfather. So the reason why he acquired all those skills going up to the Northeast on Broadway to get his acting and his on stage, and to go out to the West Coast to get his acting and screen time, and then coming back home to the South to get his musical time, was because he wanted to create a center in his community for fine arts, because his grandfather had taught him from an early age to be able to serve. But see, Leo is the lifer because he already knew he had to go to all those different places to get those experiences so that he could help the other kids who were in his shoes later on in life. So just think about it. As a coach, you knew who your lifers were. Yeah, you held them to a higher standard because of the talent, but you also, you sometimes we had to coach them a little different and get out of their way, especially when it was crunch time. And then as a business leader, that lifer is the person, they're probably going to leave and go run their own show at some point. But before they leave, you help with their development so that they can develop the next lifer who could be a contributor, who could be a participator, right? And that's where the PCL method comes from, man. Just me understanding that as a ninth grade head football coach at St. Augustine High School, that, hey, I had to play everybody. And the kids that are participators, you better play them early. For all you guys that are coaches right now, don't wait till crunch time. You got that kid that's, nah, don't put me in, but you here, and you know his parents is going to come see the head coach later on in the week because Johnny didn't play. So you better play them early in the first and second quarter, because when it's crunch time at the end of the game, man, you want your contributors and your life is giving you a chance to win and compete at a high level.
You think about that, about participants, that as the season goes on, I remember when I first started coaching, got a little frustrated because I should have played those participants early. But here I'm playing some of those participants later as a head sophomore coach. And not only did I break a clipboard in one game, I kicked the chair. Remember the Bobby Knight thing about kicking the chair? Kicked the chair like out on about halfway out on the court.
Yeah.
They didn't remove me from the game, but they gave me a couple technicals about it.
Roger, that's why that framework is for leaders. For us What if you would have learned that from F42 empowerment? It would have lessened your frustration because you would have understood the categories that these kids are in. Roger, once I found that out, then when I became a head coach, I taught my staff. I said, listen, all the freshman kids got to play, but I'm going to do y'all one better. Play those freshman kids early in the first and second quarter. Their parents better get there early. You feel me, Roger?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, man. Get there early. I say, look, guys, I got it down to a science. The first 2 series, you let your starters roll. I say the next series, you start sprinkling in some of them participators. Don't wholesale it now. Right? And in your case in basketball, hey, man, toward the end of the first quarter, hey, look down the end of the bench, that 19 guy, hey, come on, get in there.
So,
A minute or 2 minutes left. It ain't that far away. And if it is, you got 3 more quarters to go. It ain't gonna really hurt nobody. But they got a chance to play. And not only did they get a chance to play, man, but they got a chance to get some development.
yeah, so good.
So, yeah, man, that's how I came up with that, the PCL method. And for your listeners, again, if they're leaders of organizations or even coaches, man, if you want to learn more about that, have some more parts of that framework that were not mentioned, connect with me and we can talk and continue the conversation.
All right, Daron or Coach Frank, here we go. Final message to men pursuing more. Man listening that maybe he's down in life, maybe health, career, relationships, whatever it might be, or his identity. What would you like to them to know what it takes that next step forward?
For that man that's stuck at the edge,
He's stuck, maybe career, maybe health-wise, relationships, identity, whatever it might be. What's that next step for him?
I like to say this, man, again, as a former athletic coach. Listen, if you're blessed to see the sun shine every day or the next day, that means you got some time on the clock. All right. That's probably the most important thing. All right. The next thing is if you got time on the clock, go ahead and insert yourself into the game or prepare for the game. Those action steps. And I think you and I talked about it earlier. Those 4 things. You came up with 2 of them when you talked about being able to speak it and hear it. And then I added my 2 as far as writing it down and performing those actions. Okay. For that young man that's stuck at the edge, hey, man, it's okay to stand still sometimes. Because now you get a chance to do those 4 things. And when we're moving sometimes, we're not able to focus on that. Hear it, write it down, perform the action. Coach, I don't know what actions to perform. That's why you want to surround yourself with some people that have been where you're going. And I'll call that help. Not help to come and save me, but to be able to have the courage to ask questions. Have you ever learned in the progress? I think that's something that you and I probably did a lot, Roger, and we had the courage because it was already built in us there, right? To better ask for help. Have you ever learned in the progress? And when you find those people, could be someone like Roger, could be someone like myself, we'll pour it to you. And if we don't know the answers, we'll help you to navigate to find them.
And that's a key thing. None of us have all the answers. And to kind of really help navigate those, to really kind of help them find the answers they're looking for.
That's why they call us coach, man.
That's right, Coach Frank. Thanks for your leadership, your heart for men. You work in the school system being a coach. Now you're coaching 17 to 29-year-olds, but you're free to coach others outside of 29 as well.
Yep.
And all the work you're doing for the next generation and beyond. And so go beyond the edge. So, Coach, where can listeners find you and follow you? Your F42 empowerment and beyond the edge coaching.
Yeah. Hey, man, for those visual people who will watch this, you can connect with me by scanning that QR code. And for the listeners who, like myself, you may be listening on your ride, on your drive, right? www.Daron, that's DARON, Franklin.com. And there you can connect with me. There's a page for you to leave your information, and also on all the social media platforms. And I believe Roger will have that information in the show notes. But the biggest thing is, man, hey, if you want to even Google F42 empowerment, it'll pop up and we connect and continue the conversation to pursue more.
There you go. That's a wrap with Daron Franklin on Men Pursuing More podcast. And thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep pursuing more.